No Reality was the first ever Trilogy track, which is why I picked it. You know, it always feels like the genesis of that whole era for us, and a very magical time. And, you know, I remember the bass line coming out of another bass line, because we resampled everything, and always used to have the Dat in control, Shim's on twisting shit out, and we're playing crazy stuff, and it was another bass line, and then it was, you know, okay, so now there's a bass riff, and what happens if you just play it crazy on the keyboard, and yeah, these amazing accidents happen, which is kind of like what happened a lot in the studios. A lot of stuff and resampling, and wow, that sounds crazy. Let's just turn the lights down low and leave the DAT in record for an hour and a half and just see what wild sounds come out. And No Reality was the birth for me of the Trilogy vibe.
Basically, I only intended to do the one remix, first of all. I started off with Titan, and basically my whole sort of approach to it was just to I didn't want to butcher it. It wasn't the easiest thing to do, because I mean, tracks back then, it was so long ago, like they were in such high keys and the bass lines were so high. It's changed a lot now, you know, the bass lines are a lot lower, the beats are hitting a lot harder now. So yeah, it was a bit of a mission, but yeah, I think I got there in the end.
Andy and Shim have gone for the two classics, the Titans, the No Realities, you know, and but as far as the ones that I've been involved with, I think Paul Inside Info really brought out the best in that incoming tune. I think that's come out very, very well. I'm really, really pleased with how that come out. And he's got one of the best equipment effects racks I've ever seen. It is phenomenally expensive. It's all made up of modules that came down to a joystick. And once I got the hang of it, what's the other tune I did? Incarnate. We got the bass line going through that, and I was just, it's just a joystick, and it's doing one repeating and filters, and I was like, well, let's just record everything, you know, and I was just having fun moving this joystick around. And, you know, we just printed everything and then took the best bits and put them. That is the pinnacle of what I like to do. Something that's innovative, that is off the wall and happens by chance. I guess the basic instruction to everybody that agreed to come on board was put it through you, you know, and give us your take on it. There was no direction. It's here it is. You know, just put it through your machine and get that that vibe of what you want to do with it. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Benny Hill. I've been loving his stuff for time, and I think all of them stand up. You know, they're very, very good remixes that I'm proud to have handed over to them. You know,
I did hook up a lot of the remixes off of artists that I'm really rating at the moment. Obviously, Benny Hill's a massive artist for me. I worked with him a lot, and yeah, he's a great producer, a really good guy. Leaf as well is a new guy who's coming through. He's got a really unique sound. I really rate him as well. And Traumatized as well. He's just like smashing it to pieces at the moment. They were the three guys that really wanted remixes off on this project.
Well, there's a fantastic amount of artists that are featured on. You know, like I wouldn't possibly want to list everybody because it's a huge project, isn't it? You know, it's great to we've brought people in, new and old, into remixing the project, and I think everyone's done a wicked job. I mean, it's pretty far out to like let go of your baby, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? Let go of all these stems and samples, and then wait with bated breath to get them back. Do you know what I mean? It's we've been definitely had some wicked surprises. You know, I mean, I know I certainly have, and I'm playing them out, and they're doing the damage, man. So I'm definitely chuffed with everybody that's contributed.
And Shimon was a big help with that, because obviously with his audio porn label, he's able to go to the artists like Traumatized and Matt and people to say, would you like to have a go on these? So, you know, Shim has been a massive asset to get this project on the go.
There's definitely a standard of of sound design and sort of levels and stuff that you kind of have to adhere to these days, where the rules weren't so rigid back in the day. Do you know what I mean? It was a bit more about the vibe of the tune, and it wasn't so, you know, if you listen to some of these tunes back now, I mean, the mix downs are a bit, you know, they wouldn't stand up today. Do you know what I mean? You can't play stuff like Titan and Reflection really in a modern day set. Do you know what I mean? So that was my approach, was just to make them keep the vibe but make them playable.
I like to work with someone to bounce ideas off of. Nowadays, obviously, the situation's changed in the studio. It's a very singular thing. But I've always liked to collaborate and, you know, and keep that vibe going and basically sort of get the best out of who I'm with, and then sort of knock it backwards and forwards like tennis. Do you know what I mean? And keep the session going. I can sort of jump around and come back, and that's great. Stop. Let's use that, or vice versa. Do you know what I mean? But I've always worked better in a more of a collaboration way of creating.
I really don't know. I think, you know, I don't think at the time, I think we were just like gobsmacked by the reaction at the time. We definitely were vibing in the studio and looking forward to going out and playing them at the weekend and feeling like, this tune's crazy. You know, you can always feel, can't you, if you're making a tune and you're like, oh my, I've not heard this before, but my gut tells me that I play this out at the weekend, it's going to go crazy, and I hope X, Y, and Z are there to hear it, because there was so much great, healthy competition. You know, the Trilogy era was, you know, all about going to music house. For me, going to music house, cutting the dubs, you know, swapping tunes with Ed Rush and Optical, Bad Company, you know, like them amazing days. And, you know, you had the Bristol guys doing their thing, Metalheads. Everyone was influenced by one another, and everyone was trying. There was a wicked friendly competition, you know, even within the Ram camp, you know, Fusion and Trilogy. You know, we were every weekend trying to outdo one another, going out on the road, going to Atomics in Maidstone, and bashing it, and seeing whose tune went off more.
I do know there's been a bit of a resurgence in the older junglist, jungle vibes of where hardcore was turning into drum and bass, as we were talking about earlier. And that's, I think, very, very cool that it's going back to the breaks and getting a bit more away from the modern tech step. So if you'd have asked me, would Molten Beats be well received today, maybe, you know, it's not a million miles away of where we are today.
That was a sound that people, I guess, heard and built on, do you know what I mean, and brought us to present day, do you know what I mean? You know, because people like back in the day, you know, like the Virus and Ram and V, and, you know, they were the labels that were kind of setting the sound and sort of thing. So I think if that hadn't have happened then maybe the sound now wouldn't be the same. I'm not sure. It's a really difficult question to answer.
It's changed beyond all. I can't recognise the studio process now. You know, the beauty of the Trilogy era, if you compare it to today, was the tunes when they were finished. You know, there was, you'd twiddle the knobs, press the guitar pedals, you know, to get the distortion going on, slam up the distortion in the EMU sampler. You know, every sound was basically maximised on plus 10, 20 dB, and then you'd put the filters on it and the envelopes in the EMU. You'd make out the track, you'd come back day after day. Some tracks you'd come back too many days, and it was like, you know what, guys, this ain't going anywhere. But sometimes tunes used to happen magically. You know, there wasn't the analytical nature that there is to making music nowadays, whereby you go through the process of honing in on a snare or a hi-hat for days on end, or mix downs for weeks on end. So the beauty of it was they were all magical experiences that happened over a short period of time. And when the tune was done, you know, the lights go down low. Are we dancing around? Are we feeling the vibe? Yes, of course we are. And then, is it done, lads? Yep, you reckon? Yep. And the faders would come down and tune's done.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely got more responsible, I think, from back then. And just, yeah, I mean, things have changed so much anyway. I think essentially the core and the vibe is still the same. But yeah, I mean, the productions, the techniques, I think as a whole, the rave scene and the industry at the moment is really healthy.
You never let go of a tune nowadays, whereas you could let go of a tune and move on a lot more easier back in the day.
When we used to get a remix back in the day, we might get the drum sample on its own, just a bare vocal, maybe a riff. With this project, we've had all the stems of each track as it was. So it's been interesting to see how everyone has approached that rather than having just a few samples. They've got the whole stems of all the tracks.
We didn't really plan stuff back then. It wasn't like, oh, we need to make a tune that sounds like this and then we go and do it. It was always a bit of a process, do you know what I mean, of just sort of throwing a few things around and seeing what sticks.
Let's say I was clearing out the other day and I found the first ever test pressing sheet from Ram 001 that I got from All 8 Records on July the 12th, 1992. They would have gone in the back of my old man's car, and then the promos would have come and Ant would have driven me around London and I would have sold the records into the record stores. And then you would have waited and you would have got some orders, and then you would have actually pressed these things called vinyl and get a pre-order 6 weeks out from release. It was, you know, all joking aside, it's fundamental differences, you know. Nowadays you'll be on Instagram, play a tune in a club, take a little video for the gram, put it up, everybody comments on it. Oh yeah, by the way, that's that and that a tune, and it's out at midnight. Cheers, tune's out, done, and then next week everybody wants another one. So, you know, the longevity of tunes is definitely, for me, a major difference from back in the day. And the process of owning them, looking forward to owning them, you know, that builds a hype in itself, isn't it? And you could only listen to them if you went out and was listening to the DJs that had them, or you were locked in 24/7 to the pirates and you were checking it out. So it's not. I'm not saying it's changed for the worse, you know. I'm not saying it's because that's progression, you know.